eye was a face that inspired pity. A little girl, about 6 years old, with blonde hair and a simple cotton dress. She looked lost. She looked lonely. She looked like she just wanted someone to play with her. When Tony and Debra Pickman moved into the small white house in Atchison, Kansas, in 1992, they weren't afraid. They were excited. They had a newborn baby boy, and they wanted a home filled with love. When they saw the little girl standing in the hallway, they didn't run. They thought she was a spirit who needed help. They even gave her a name, Sallie. But there is a dangerous lesson in the world of the paranormal. The devil doesn't always come with horns and a tail. Sometimes it comes as everything you ever wanted to protect. This is the true story of the Sallie House. The story of a family that invited a child into their home, only to realize that the child was a monster in disguise. Part 1. The Doctor's House. To understand Sallie, we have to go back to the early 1900s. The house on North 2nd Street belonged to a doctor. He used the front room as his surgery. One day, a mother brought in her young daughter, Sallie, who was suffering from severe abdominal pain. The doctor realized it was appendicitis. He was in a hurry. He didn't wait for the anesthesia to fully take effect. He began the surgery while the little girl was still conscious. Sallie died on the operating table, her last moments filled with terror and pain. Her last sight was the face of the doctor she thought was going to save her. For decades, the house sat quiet until the Pickmans arrived. Part 2. The Invisible Playmate. Tony and Debra Pickman were a modern couple. Tony was an artist, a man of deep emotions. Debra was the practical one. Almost as soon as they moved in, their dog began to bark at nothing. He would stand at the nursery door, hackles raised, growling at the empty air. Then, the toys started moving. Debra would find her son's stuffed animals arranged in a perfect circle in the middle of the floor. She would find the baby's rattle on the kitchen table when she knew she had left it upstairs. Tony started seeing her first, a small, translucent figure of a girl. She would peek around corners. She would disappear behind the curtains. They weren't scared. They felt bad for her. They thought she was the spirit of the little girl who died on the operating table. They started leaving toys out for her. They would talk to her. "Hi, Sallie. We're here. You're safe with us." They thought they were being kind. They didn't realize they were giving the entity exactly what it wanted: validation and an invitation. Part 3. The attacks begin. As the Pickmans grew more comfortable with Sallie, the atmosphere in the house began to darken. The friendly playmate was replaced by something aggressive. The first physical attack happened to Tony. He was in the kitchen when he felt a sudden, sharp heat on his back. It felt like someone had pressed a hot iron against his skin. He pulled up his shirt. Debra gasped. There were 3 deep, bloody scratches running from his shoulder down to his waist. They were fresh. They were raw. Then the fire started. Tony would be working in his studio, and a small fire would spontaneously ignite on his desk. Not from a candle or a wire, just fire appearing out of nowhere. The entity was no longer playing. It was marking its territory, and it had chosen Tony as its enemy. Part 4. The true face of Sallie. Why Tony? Why not Debra or the baby? Paranormal experts believe that negative entities often target the father figure. If they can break the protector of the family, the rest are easy prey. The Pickmans called in a team of investigators. They brought in cameras, recorders, and a psychic. They captured things that are still discussed in paranormal circles today. Voices that sounded like a child's whisper one second and a deep, demonic growl the next. But the most terrifying discovery came during a photo session. Tony was sitting in the living room. The investigators were taking pictures of the empty space around him. When they developed the film, they saw her. Sallie was standing right next to Tony, but she didn't look like a little girl anymore. Her face was distorted. Her eyes were not the eyes of a child. They were cold, ancient, and filled with a hatred that no human could possess. The psychic turned to Tony and said the words that changed everything. That is not a little girl. It never was. It is a demonic entity that has taken the shape of a child to gain your trust. It is using your sympathy as a doorway. Part 5. The escalation. Once its cover was blown, the entity stopped pretending. The house became a place of pure violence. Tony would wake up with scratches on his chest in the shape of a cross upside down. He would be pushed down the stairs. He would feel invisible hands choking him in his sleep. The baby's nursery became so cold that they could see their breath in the middle of summer. The baby would scream for hours, looking at the corner of the room with wide, terrified eyes. The Pickmans tried everything. They had the house blessed. They brought in priests, but the entity mocked them. It would throw the crucifixes across the room. It would blow out the candles. It would laugh a sound that echoed through the walls, a sound that no 6-year-old girl could ever make. They realized they weren't dealing with a ghost who was lost. They were dealing with an ancient evil that had claimed that house as its temple. Part 6. The final stand. The breaking point came one night when Tony was alone in the house. He felt a presence so heavy he could barely breathe. He was pinned against the wall by an invisible force. He felt the cold breath of the entity on his neck. It whispered in his ear, "You're mine now." Tony realized that if they stayed one more night, someone was going to die. Not just him, but his wife or his son. They didn't even pack their clothes. They grabbed the baby, got into the car, and drove away in the middle of the night. They left everything behind. The toys they had bought for Sallie, the furniture, the life they had dreamed of. They never moved back. Part 7. Conclusion. The Sallie House still stands in Atchison, Kansas. It is considered one of the most haunted houses in America. Other people have lived there. Other investigators have gone inside. And the stories are always the same. The scratches, the fires, the small girl who isn't a girl at all. This story is a warning for all of us. We want to believe in the innocent. We want to help those who seem lost. Our hearts are designed to protect children. But in the dark corners of the world, there are things that know our weaknesses. They know that a child's face is the perfect mask for a demon's heart. Tonight, if you hear a child's laughter in a place where there are no children, or if you see a small figure standing in your hallway, don't offer it a toy. Don't say its name, just pray and walk away, because once you invite them in, they may never let you leave. Thank you for watching the true story of the Sallie House. Do you think the doctor's surgery really created this portal? Or was the evil there long before? Let me know in the comments. And if you have a story of an invisible friend that turned out to be something else, share it below. You're brave enough. Stay safe, watch the shadows, and I will see you in the next nightmare.